Hello everyone, my name is Kevin Harrison, and today I'd like to share one of my special poems with you that the Lord inspired me to write about Moses. It is called Moses, God's Deliverer. In the center of a mountain, out of a flame-burning tree, the holy voice of God proceeded forth, telling Moses to go and set his people free from the pain and the suffering in that cruel and happy land. Whipping, slapping slaves they made, bricks from straw and sand. For the time had come for God to send their deliverer he had been promising for years, who would lead them out of bondage, pain, and hopeless tears. So Moses went to Pharaoh, emperor of this great city, and pleaded for the freedom of his slaves. He also stated that if he would not listen, that God's plagues he would see, and that many of his own would be laying in their graves. Now as time moved on, in that dreadful darkened place, the fury in Pharaoh grew cold, and with expressions of violence and anger in his face, his mentioned slaves he regarded as sold, for he knew no longer what to do to escape from the plagues of destruction. Yet now it was his palace view that needed new construction. Yet his slaves of fortune were no longer there to build his splendid dream. In sorrow and regret he sighed in despair, so hopeless it may seem. Now time was of the essence, and he could not hesitate to seek out Israel in vengeance. On them he would unleash his hate. Yet he knew not whom was on their side. Yes, he knew not God's protection. Now at noon his armies of power would ride to smite a weary nation. Now as they journeyed on their way in fierce and solid force, nothing or no one would lead them astray or move them from off course. Looking back in terror across the distant plain, Israel saw them coming down. In golden chariots they rode with fame, so fearless was the sound. Yet just as brutal as they were, killing Israel their desire, from before them came a stir of raging spinning fire. Falling down upon the ground, it blocked their entrance path. No gap or space could be seen or found, for now it was God's wrath. God then opened up the big Red Sea that Israel could not get across. Yes, so that to the other side they could all flee and know who's really the boss. He then closed it again once they'd all gone through, leaving the enemy to drown behind. For they might have taken them back into captivity, it's true, yet only a mass of water over them is what they did find. When Israel saw what God had done, their hope then did restore. They then knew that the battle had been won, now peace and no more war. You see, there was a promise that God made to all his children back then, that if they endured, they would be saved right out of the enemy's den. So too God has made a promise to all of us that he will send his Son one day to come and fetch his own. Together forever we will always stay and never be left alone. Amen. Be blessed.